Welcome to rSlash Am I the Butthole, where OP's brother tries to have his children taken away from him. Am I the butthole for not wanting to accept my brother's apology after he lied to Child Protective Services? I have no idea what to do right now. I'm so angry with my brother that I now keep my front door locked 24/7 so him and his wife don't just walk in. So let's start with the fact that my brother is clean and sober and has been for a few years, married with 2 boys. I, on the other hand, smoke the green because it's legal where I live. He's also had an increasing issue with this fact, believing the only way to properly live is to be sober, and even the smallest idea of using drugs is frowned upon. It doesn't help that I have 2 kids, and he keeps joking these past 3 months that he was going to call Child Protective Services because he doesn't like the way that I parent. Well, last Sunday, I got a call from a social worker trying to find my house so that he could come and see if my kids were doing okay. The call came with a laundry list of complaints, which the caseworker determined were completely unfounded, and this whole thing was a waste of time. The caseworker asked my oldest child questions to see if anything was true, and he could see in her face that she was confused as to why he would ask such weird things. Well, in my confusion, I called my mother and sister to tell them what had just happened. I was in the process of explaining to them what had gone down when my brother and his wife walked through the door. I didn't want to ask questions, but I couldn't stop it from coming out of my mouth. The way this man shrugged his shoulders and said, "Yeah, I did it," I immediately lost my mind. I told him to get out of my house and that I never wanted to see his face again. He and his wife quickly shuffled out of the house while I went to go cry in a room away from the kids. 4 days later, the case was being closed. CPS said there was nothing in our homes or about us that would or should cause them to be involved. Now, my brother and his wife are trying to message me and guilt me into forgiving him. But there isn't a fiber of my being that has forgiveness for him left. Am I the butthole? No, getting CPS called on you when there's nothing wrong with your family whatsoever is an act of war. What was his end goal? To have your kids literally get taken away from you as a punishment for doing a completely legal thing in your state that he just doesn't happen to approve of? That is disgusting behavior. OP, I'm completely on your side. I would never breathe the same air as that scumbag. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your brother 4 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my sister that I don't know if I love her after finding out about her 5-year affair? My sister, who's 32, moved in with me because she got pregnant 5 months ago from what she claimed was a one-night stand. I love my sister, so of course I took her in. My husband is overseas for 6 more months, so it was nice to have her around because I care about her very much. On Monday, I came home and saw my sister and a strange woman in a screaming match on my doorstep. I obviously didn't know what was happening, but I saw the woman poking my pregnant sister's shoulder, so I intervened. I sent my sister inside, and she begged me to send the woman away. I didn't understand what was going on, but I wanted the altercation to end for everyone's sake, so I told the woman as much. Then the woman started screaming at me, asking me if I was also sleeping with her husband. I was like, huh? And then the woman basically revealed that my sister had been having an affair with her husband for 5 years. She'd printed out everything: chats, photos, emails, receipts. It was disturbing to see, and I didn't want to go through it all. However, a few things were established. 1, my sister knew about his wife. She knew that she was the mistress and liked it. 2, the wife was a stay-at-home mom to their 4 kids, one of whom has a severe disability from a car accident. 3, her husband knew about my sister's pregnancy and even took her on a baby moon to celebrate it. 4, the affair had been going on the entire time, with my sister believing he would eventually leave his wife for her. 5, my sister had fully embraced the role of being the other woman and was emotionally invested in their relationship, despite his repeated lies about leaving his wife. I told the woman I was very sorry and that obviously I didn't know, but I asked her to leave because this was going nowhere and I didn't want the neighbors to call the cops. She was furious, but gave me her number on a Post-it, begging me not to let her husband stay at my house. I assured her that no man was stepping foot in my home. My sister was begging me not to believe the woman, calling her a vindictive ex-wife. I told her, all right then, let's just look up the marriage online. Let's see if a motion for dissolution of marriage was ever submitted. Me and my sister fought hard. My sister kept saying I would never understand and that they love each other, but he just couldn't leave his wife, blah blah blah. I called her dumb and naive. The next day, I told her she could stay here because I didn't want her to become a financial burden on that other woman in any way, but I also told her that, right now, I didn't want to engage with her. My sister asked me if I still loved her, and I told her, honestly, right now, I can't say that I do. I will always help my nephew and not endanger you, but I can't like you because you've shown me that you're not a trustworthy person. I told her that I didn't trust her not to try anything with my husband, and I didn't trust her with anything at all, so I made her sign a tenants agreement. She's been begging me to forgive her, and I told her there's nothing to forgive. I just don't know who she is anymore. OP, while reading this, I was thinking in the back of my mind that it's very logical to, maybe you love her, maybe you don't, but the conclusion I would come to is just, I don't know who this person is anymore. So I'm very delighted to see that you came to the exact same conclusion at the end of the story. Because, your sister is, dumb and naive. You said it yourself. She's very dumb, but also she's a liar. I mean, how could you believe a single word that comes out of her mouth for the rest of your life? OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your cheating sister 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for being the reason that my grandparents refused to help my dad anymore and laughing when he and his wife complained about it? I'm a 16-year-old guy, and my mom died when I was 7. She left me an inheritance that my dad was put in charge of. The money was supposed to be for my future, and nobody was supposed to touch it unless I really needed it, and it was pretty specific. I read through the documents 5 months ago when all this went down. My dad got married again when I was 10, and he has an 8-year-old stepdaughter and now a 4-year-old daughter with his wife, Louise. My half-sister was diagnosed with a rare condition when she was 2. It was always clear that something was wrong, but they had a really hard time figuring out what it was. Doctors would say she'd be fine when she was older. The condition isn't life-threatening, like she won't die from it, but it could potentially leave her permanently disabled in a bad way. A few months ago, they found out about this treatment that's hard to get into, but it was expensive. There is a way to get help paying for it, but that takes longer. So my dad decided that he would use the inheritance that my mom left me to pay for it. He tried asking me, but he was going to do it anyway, and when I told him no, he told me as much. Then he shamed me for saying no, for putting college before the health of my half-sister. Louise was in the room with us, but she wasn't talking before I said no. She asked me, how could I look at my half-sister at the life that she'll have if we don't do anything and say no? I told my dad that I would never forgive him if he took my money. After I read my mom's will, I brought up the fact that the money was only for my needs. He told me that my mom was dead and he hoped that she would understand. I told him that I never would. He told me I'd understand when I'm older. I told him I hated him, and I told Louise she better never speak to me again, because I found it disgusting she would encourage stealing from me and taking my mom's money. I told my grandparents what my dad did. They're my mom's parents, but had stayed friendly with dad, and there were times that they would help him. They shared stuff with him all the time, and grandpa would look at dad's car for free if anything was wrong. That all stopped when I told them. Dad couldn't figure out why until he confronted them about it last week. They told him that he had some nerve stealing from me, taking their daughter's money and spending it on his child. My dad was mad that they didn't understand and support his decision. He confronted me about it and complained about what I did. I laughed and told him that I warned him and I would never forgive him for it. He asked how I got to be so heartless and selfish. I told him I would never forget what he did. Am I the butthole? Yeah, you have every right to be mad, OP. You literally got robbed by your own father. If you and your grandparents aren't doing it already, you should go talk to a lawyer and potentially sue him to get the money back. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your dad 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for not telling my boyfriend that I could understand his language the whole time? I'm an 18-year-old girl, and I've been with my 19-year-old boyfriend for 2 years now. This all started when we met 3 years ago. I was new at our high school, and he introduced me to his friend group, which had mostly French speakers. I've never been confident with my French speaking due to insecurity about my accent, but I can understand the language perfectly. I was just too embarrassed to let them know because I was scared they would ask me to try to speak French with them. I got really close with this friend group, and my boyfriend and I got together after 1 year. Me not speaking French had never been a problem because he would speak English around me and always made sure his friends did the same. And it went on for so long that I just didn't have the heart to tell him that I could understand them anyways. The problem started in university. We both got a house off campus together, but my boyfriend was always coming back really late. I had convinced myself that he was probably occupied with university stuff, but the other night, I overheard him talking on the phone to one of his French friends about how he had hooked up with 3 different girls at the same time, and I was completely baffled. I confronted him, but instead of him being apologetic, he got mad that I could actually understand what he was saying. I tried to come up with an excuse and say that I managed to pick up the language after all the time we've been together, but he doesn't believe me since he never speaks French around me, and he said that he can't trust me anymore. He's staying at a friend's house right now, and I don't know if I'm at fault here for not telling him I understand French, or if the real problem is him cheating. Am I the butthole? And if yes, what do I do? Honestly, OP, for hiding this secret, I do think you deserve, like 0.5 out of 5 butthole scores because it feels honestly kind of duplicitous. However, clearly the problem here is the cheating, right? This is not really up for debate. So while you definitely shouldn't have kept this secret from him, you are not the problem in this relationship. It's so disrespectful to not only cheat, but also flaunt that fact in front of you and then try to paint himself as the victim afterwards and make it seem like it's your fault. Am I the butthole for telling my daughters that I was moving on with the separation anyways? I found out that my husband cheated on me when I was pregnant. Both times. I only found out 3 months ago, and until then, we were a very happy family, and my husband is a great dad. Our daughters are 14 and 16. They know the reason that we're getting a divorce and that he had 2 affairs with 2 women, but not all the details. They're opposed to the idea of a divorce anyway, and they threatened to never see me again if I went through with it because the offense happened so long ago. I understand that they don't want change and their lives are in upheaval. I know all that, but I just can't be with them anymore. I can't even look at him. Nothing is working. Therapy is not working, and my kids are adamant about never seeing me again. I haven't seen them in 2 months. We rent a small studio apartment now, and we live every other week in the house with the girls, and the others live in the studio apartment. The girls refuse to stay with me at the house during my weeks, but they stay in the studio with my husband. We bought our house in 2003, and it's quadrupled in value, so we're going to be able to have 2 decent homes, even if it's not as big and beautiful as this one, but it's not like our daughters will live in bad conditions. Before all this, they were close to both of us and loved us equally. Now, they only love him. Last week, they made it clear that if I filed for divorce, they will never see me again. I said I was never going back to him, and they said I made my choice and they'll never see me again. Your daughters sound awful, OP. You're going through what's probably the worst moment in your life and they choose to just abandon you. And instead of supporting you, they're supporting the guy who cheated on you. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the rest of your family 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for choosing my family? My parents always chose my brother. It's been like this my entire life. As a child, I never put them in the position to choose. That kept the peace, and it also didn't make me feel like garbage about myself. I'm the dependable child. I show up and always do the right thing. This is where things get tricky. My brother married into an awful family. Extremely entitled, snobby, and just very mean. They've always hosted Thanksgiving, and it's just been something that my husband and I just go along with. Really, we do it to just keep my parents happy. The last 2 Thanksgivings, the father of my sister-in-law has been incredibly mean to my 5-year-old. to the point where I reached out the day after Thanksgiving saying if this continues, we will no longer be celebrating holidays with them at all. We've seen them since, and it's been fine, but it's never been in their home, and that's when the father's comfortable enough to be mean. This Thanksgiving, my husband and I decided to plan a local trip for our family. We invited my parents and my brother's family. They all loved the idea, but declined. Since my brother declined, my parents said that they can't pick between families, but of course picked my brother's. I expected it, and I'm not even mad about it. My husband and I booked our trip anyways. We're not going to subject our children to a toxic Thanksgiving. Well, today, I got the group text message about Thanksgiving plans. I sent a very friendly text back saying that we'll be out of town, and now everyone is upset at me and blindsided even though we've been discussing it for months. They thought that because they declined the trip that we weren't going on it, but we are. Am I the butthole? OP, the fact that you even have to come to Reddit to type this out and be like, hey guys, am I the butthole here? Proves that you are so deep in the abuse that you can't even tell what's normal from what's abuse anymore. OP, you get an easy peasy 0 out of 5 buttholes. You gotta reduce contact, man. I'm giving the rest of your family 3 out of 5 buttholes. That was rSlash Am I the Butthole, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.